Time now for our monthly chat on Philippine-British relations. We also discuss today the Philippines' upcoming investment mission to the UK in June. Here with us for this discussion, British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines' untiring Executive Director, Chris Nelson. We're also joined by Maria Veronica Magsina, Deputy Director General for Finance and Administration of the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, DDG. Veronica, Chris, welcome to Market Edge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
All right, I want to start with you, Chris. So we've got you're working with PEZA on an investment mission to the UK this June. I wonder, what are you hoping to realistically bring home?
So first of all, I'd like to thank PEZA. I actually got together with the Director General, Panga, when he visited London for the Philippine Economic Briefing. And then he was talking about that, and we've had obviously follow-up meetings. So I think it's going to reinforce already. Let's not forget the UK was one of the largest foreign investors last year with the Actis Fund and renewable energy. I'm sure we're going to touch upon also JETCO, because this is going to follow up on that. And I think also they've got contacts already. So what we're looking to see is further increase the number of British companies already in PEZA, further increase those investments. And for us, because we use that opportunity while we're doing the PEZA investment mission, to also highlight to the small to medium-sized companies opportunities. They may not necessarily be in the PEZA, but it's something to show and highlight how the Philippines is going. So this is all following on from a continuing growth between our bilateral trade.
Of course, Chris, the Philippines is not the only one holding these investment roadshows, these missions. Who do you think is our biggest competitor from the region competing for UK money, UK investment?
Well, we've said many times, there's many other countries going there. Clearly within Southeast Asia, you have Vietnam, you have Indonesia. So you have those that are looking, obviously going there competing.
What is their unique advantage, I wonder?
Well, I think,
because they're clearly darlings, they're favorites. You do have a trade deal, with Vietnam, right? The free trade deal already.
But I think, let's not forget, we've just also started our first JETCO. So therefore, we're
more
upgrading.
on JETCO later.
So I think the view is that what can we do to continue to make the Philippines attractive to UK investors and companies? That's why we've constantly pushed for liberalisation. We've constantly pushed for key priority legislation. That's why we're also stressing we want to see passed in this new coming Congress, once Congress resumes, the Cybersecurity Act and e-governance, and also the Open Transmission Act. All of these we reinforce back to UK companies and investors the opportunities in the Philippines. So I think it's a combination, Mimi. What we're looking at is to continually open up the Philippine economy, reinforce the change that's been made, like the Foreign Investment Act, Public Services Act, and the Retail Trade Act. So I think it's that combination to make the Philippines as attractive as other countries, to keep moving it forward.
DDG Veronica, I'm very curious, how big would you say is the UK contingent in our ecozones?
We have 64 companies that was from 1995 when PEZA started up to this year, and 2024 rather, at the end of 2024. And that 64 companies are mostly IT, BPM, and manufacturing. And for the total amount of investments made by the United Kingdom, we have it at around 211 billion pesos. And that covers the period since 1995 up to the end of 2024.
DDG, put these numbers in context. Is the UK contingent among the biggest? Is it the biggest, or somewhere in the middle of the pack when you look at the other investors?
Well, in terms of investments by the UK, they are number 4. So, of course, first would be our Japanese investors. Then we have the US, and then we have the Dutch, and then the British, or the people from the United Kingdom, investments from the United Kingdom.
All right. And of course, DDG, you very recently, PEZA, issued guidelines for the establishment and registration of pharma zones to streamline regulatory processes, cut drug prices, and attract global pharma investors to the country. I wonder, you must have pushed pencils already here. How much investments are you targeting, and are there any takers already?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to explain that with the pharma economic zones, we had as our objective, of course, to bring down the amount or the prices of medicines and drugs in the country, improve employment, increase in employment. We would also like to see that we'd like to bolster the pharmaceutical industry in the Philippines, and also to reduce reliance on imports where it is possible to manufacture pharmaceuticals in the country. Now, as to targets, yes, we have already some interests. Actually, or just recently, we approved the one pharma ecozone. This is the Sen Industrial Pharma Economic Zone, and we are looking at a possible locator in that economic zone. Now, as to how much are we targeting, well, the target for the total amount of pharmaceuticals or drugs in the country, as prepared by the Pharmaceutical Association, places it at from 285 in 2024. They are targeting a 9% growth, so that would be 310 billion in terms of sales or revenues coming from the pharmaceutical products. And what we're looking at is we'd like to fill that increase in revenues from the sale of pharmaceuticals by way of inviting foreign direct investment into the country.
Chris, is this big for you and your members? Are there big British pharma or medical companies already here or looking to expand, or maybe just set up shop to begin with?
Well, if you look at our membership already, we of course have GlaxoSmithKline, we have AstraZeneca, so they're already here, and I'm sure.
But this is mostly a sales marketing destination.
They are, but they're also obviously looking at opportunities, of course, around. I mean, they are one of our key members. I think, as explained by the DJ, there clearly are going to be people looking for the opportunities. I think when you come back and link it to this investment mission, and as we've been discussing, to make the Philippines more attractive, of course, we will take the opportunity when we're in the UK to explain what the opportunities, what the benefits are. Let's not forget, we just had also one of our ease of doing business events when we had, of course, the Director General Attorney Perez, right, from ARTA. And again, we also had a presentation from PESA, Board of Investments, and we discussed, of course, the More Create Act. So these are things that we're constantly using as a British Chamber to educate people. So yes, we have pharmaceutical companies here. Do I see there's an opportunity? Yes, definitely. But it's one of those where you've constantly got to keep educating and promoting. As we've discussed on previous occasions, that's one of our roles, but it's one thing we've got to keep on moving forward.
Do you see a big potential, a big opportunity when you've got your pharma companies, member companies, maybe setting up shop facilities to manufacture here or R&D and have Filipino talent on board?
Well, if you come back on talent in general, that's one of the attractions of the Philippines, the actual talent that you have here, right? As we've discussed before, that's obviously a key attraction to people, along with the total market itself. I mean, let's not forget, we have to remind ourselves the Philippine population is probably estimated at about 118 million, right? This in itself is very large, it's a growing economy, it's young, and also, of course, primarily English speaking, or at least linked to English. Of course, that makes it very attractive. And we've seen a growth and opportunity for British goods, particularly in food and beverages, also in pharmaceuticals, also in healthcare products.
All right. Speaking of opportunities, you recently visited PAGCOR. I wonder, does the Chamber see gaming as a low-hanging fruit?
Well, okay, so we went to visit PAGCOR. It was very good. We've actually been visiting a lot of different government agencies. Two of our members are actually what we call special BPOs. That's actually, you know, William Hill and Entain. So they're actually providing work and employment, servicing areas. So we went to see them to make sure, of course, that they are going to be fully supported, which they are by PAGCOR. We've also got an inquiry from a company that's not here, that's obviously been looking to try and work with the Philippine Horse Racing Association. Would I say it's laying fruit? No, I think we support our members and we work, and we obviously go to PAGCOR, and PAGCOR has obviously been helpful. We met with the president, Amy Isma. We also met with other people in terms of the regulations. So I think it's one of our outreach programs, and as you've seen, we've also met with the Secretary of Department of Trade and Industry. We've also just met with the Secretary of Agriculture. So in terms of the British Chamber, we're extremely active in reaching out to government agencies, and we actually welcome that. That allows us to discuss opportunities for our members and also discuss any potential areas of cooperation or needs or issues they may have. So we're going to keep that moving forward, and we're going to keep meeting government departments. But yes, we work with PAGCOR, and also, as I said, there's an opportunity in the horse racing, which is called the Great Horse Racing Team, I think it's called.
Lots of low-hanging fruits for investors there. Nanette, I wanted to ask you, Nanette, I imagine will be joining the mission itself.
Sure. I mean, I've only been discussing, but we've actually had meetings with Annette, and also Annette was actually the speaker at our Ease of Doing Business. I can say thank you very much. But I'm sure she'll be there, and along, obviously, with the Director General and so many other people.
What, Nanette, are you hoping? What is your key message in that investment mission in June? What do you hope to tell them?
Well, we have to tell them that come and invest in the Philippines. Why? Because you already have known companies here, well-known companies, and they've been here since actually we have, I think, around 30 years ago. We already have UK investments that have placed their manufacturing industries in in some of our economic zones. So and of course it's bullish. We're bullish in the Philippines because of the new incentives regime that we have. This is Create More, and I think everybody's know already about it. With Create More, we even are looking at increasing by 10% our projection for foreign direct investments in 2025.
And you think this is going to be an easy target? I think so, considering that in the first 2 months of this year alone, you've actually approved 53 billion pesos worth of investment pledges. That's already 4 times what you approved in 2023, the same period, 2023. Yep. So the 9 to 10% target should be quite easy for you. I wonder, with that target in mind, are there specific big projects or investments that you are eyeing specifically?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely there are. And though I'm not at liberty to divulge who these are, but what I can say are most of them would be right now in the electronics and the semiconductor industries. We're looking at certain countries placing their investments into the Philippines this coming year. And this would be big items. We've started with January and February getting a big amount of investments from single industries or single companies, and I think this will be moving forward. This will also be the trend this year. As I mentioned, it's the new incentives regime that has even helped in attracting more investors to take a look into the Philippines.
Chris, this Monday, March 17, I think you guys had the inaugural UK-Philippine Joint Economic and Trade Committee, or JETCO, ministerial meeting. What was the main output from that meeting, and where do you plan to take it moving forward?
Yes, I think there was 3 key outcomes. First of all, it obviously reinforces how the relationship continues to grow. The first is that the UK and the Philippines will work on investments in terms of infrastructure, development projects. Of course, that's also renewable energy. I'll come on to that specifically. The second is, of course, on agriculture, cooperating there. Again, just to emphasise, as we've discussed on a number of occasions, how our British exports of pork have grown. It's now the 4th largest in the world. And again, I just want to say we just had a recent meeting, and thanks to Secretary Kiko Laral, and we've also agreed to continue our partnership and keep working even more. And we hope to be bringing back AHDB here again in September to strengthen that. And then
AHDB would be
Agricultural Horticultural Development Board of the Philippines, trade board which works on both pork and beef, and we also obviously now have the poultry ban lifted. The other area is, of course, the developing countries tariff, which actually covers about 92% of all Philippine exports to the UK can be tariff-free. That's very important at this particular moment, and I think there's an opportunity to further communicate. But coming back, I think renewable energy is going to be a key area. We focused on that in one of our events in February 27th. We had the DO, we had the Department of Finance, we had, of course, the Department of Energy, and also had the Philippine National Bank, which explained how they are obviously focusing on investing in sustainable energy, particularly renewable energy. So I think that's going to be a key focus. I think it's reinforcing our bilateral. Today, with the UK and the Philippines, it's the 60th largest in terms of the UK. And our aim, of course, is to improve that number up even more.
even more. All right. Nonette earlier talked about, her bullishness that we'll be able to hit our FDI target growth of about 10% this year. Nonette, are you also planning to offer an expanded menu of eco-zones? I understand PEZA has a goal of adding, 30 new eco-zones every year?
Yes, that was what the Director General said earlier. We're looking at 30 economic zones to be approved within the year 2025.
All right. Could you give us an idea where these areas are? Which areas are ripe for the picking?
Definitely, it would be in the pharma zone, economic zone, of course, manufacturing, and still we do the IT BPM or the IT centers or IT parks.
In terms of geographies, though, where is the focus going to be for these new eco-zones?
Okay, the focus would be basically into the countryside. And actually, we're looking at, or we're banking on the Luzon Economic Corridor. So locations like Tarlac, Clark, Subic, and of course, still Metro Manila will be good areas that where we can invite our foreign direct investments to come in.
Mm-hmm. Chris, are there certain areas that you would request PEZA to consider? Because your members are saying, we need to be here.
I think we'll work with them. I think, look, they've been highlighting, we've been working with Clark. We've actually attended those. I think it also depends on the areas and linking up in terms of logistics and support, right? I mean, obviously, we've been looking also at the Luzon Economic Corridor. But I think more importantly is to show to our members, and then obviously they can look at those areas and we can assist them to come in. The key is to make sure that they're aware of the Philippines, the opportunities they have, and actually get them here.
And for those who are saying, but Chris, we get so caught up in the politics of it all. Local governments are just so hard to deal with. Every LGU has its own policy. What do you tell them?
Well, that's why we have the ease of doing business. So what we tell them is that we're constantly working with them. Look, I think there's great opportunities here. We are an ARTA champion. We will work with them. We will work with the local LGUs as well, because obviously they have their own requirements and issues. And I think that event that we had, that was actually in March, when we worked and we actually had Board of Investments, we had actually SGV was there, and we also, of course, had PEZA. That was very useful and highlighting to people the way forward, and particularly obviously having, Director General Perez explaining how they're moving forward. And I think there is opportunities, and we'll see that going forward.
All right. And final question, Chris, we are celebrating 80 years of diplomatic relations next year.
Next year.
Next year. So what do you think is going to mark 2026? Is there a big investment that you're hoping could mark that 80 years rather?
Well, I'm always hoping. I think.
Is it a realistic hope?
I think it is. I'm very optimistic that from this trip we will get investments. Whether that materialise and commemorates 80, I think I'm very confident that the bilateral trade will continue to grow. I think JETCO will continue to strengthen that, and all credit to that. And I also think, again, we'll do the Great British Festival, which I guess will reinforce. And just on that point, I'd just like to commemorate and thank our Deputy Ambassador, who's going to be leaving shortly in April, so to Alistair White. And, of course, to our Ambassador also going to be moving in August. And I think that's a reflection. They've done a great job, but we're going to keep that going. together. So yes, I think 80 will be celebrated.
All right, and with the support of PEZA, of course, more and more great things ahead. DDG Nanette, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for the insights. Exciting plans ahead. It's going to be a big year next year, so Chris, brace yourself. We're going to have you more often, all right?
We're going to keep going.
All right, Nanette, thank you. Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.